Hey everyone, it's Edward again, and I haven't posted an update. I never really showed the go-kart in its semi-final. Well, it is final. I mean, it runs. I drive it around, but I wouldn't say. I would say I got to a point where I was done trying to improve what I felt like was a crippled design. I'm actually trying to design my own go-kart, and I think I'm going to start it off as a free go-kart. Anyways, talk all day. I wasn't happy with the instructions that came for the Granddaddy go-kart. I think there's a lot that's missing, a lot of information that you have to discover yourself that should have been in the instructions. So we'll go over that. One thing while I'm seated here, I'm just going to go straight into it. This torque converter, this torque converter versus this one. This is the Chinese one that you get from Go Power Sports when you buy their kit. I think you can upgrade to an American Comet one, but this thing's a rabid piece of junk. I mean, it gets stuck constantly, and people will say stuff like, you need to just open it up and lubricate it. Well, this one you don't, okay? So this started getting stuck right out of the gate. Like, I bought it, and it was immediately getting stuck. And when I watch YouTubers talk about their go-kart, they're always like, oh, I gotta lubricate this again. It's like, it's getting stuck in the middle of their video. To me, it's not a very good design, and they're always winding up. I swear they're always getting an American Comet, but they don't want to say anything because they're probably sponsored or they got something going on. But the Chinese Comet wannabes are terrible. They're dangerous. They get stuck. You can't stop. I don't care what anyone says. I'm going to make a video dedicated to just talking about the USA Comet. I forgot the name of this one. It's like the Magnum 44. Fits perfectly where this one fits. This is a dangerous piece of junk. Do not use it. Yeah, it's cheap. You get what you pay for. Okay, so let's go into it. Let's talk about the next thing. Here's the Comet brakes that are recommended in the plans, and I actually think they're pretty good. Just one thing. There's a spring-loaded mechanism in here, right? They got two kinds. They got a spring-loaded, and you put these shims. See the shim? You understand why that shim falls out so easy. You shim them so you close the gap on the brake disc, so you have, depends on how you look at it, more throw or less throw on your pedal. But you don't need to do that. What you do is you take the springs out of here, and then after one pedal press, they don't fully open back up. And what that gives you is that your brakes are always ready to pinch the rotor. When you have the springs in there, it opens the brake pads all the way up, so it's extra travel on your brake pedal that you got to deal with. Instead of shimming them up all the time, just take the springs out. And I've taken them out, and I've never looked back. And it stops easier. The reason they've designed it like that, just so you know, is because it's for racing. So they don't want any friction touching the pads, so every little bit of friction reductions and improvement. But for what we're building, it doesn't matter. It makes no difference at all. Take the springs out, and I don't even think I need the shims anymore. I should take those out too. But it's just a tip. When you're bleeding these, one thing that's very hard to do, and this is, it says open it up a certain amount to bleed it, but what you really want to do is have it so tight that the amount of air that's leaking out is like a pinhole's worth of air. Then use aquarium tubing on the top, and you can actually see little bubbles pop out in the aquarium tubing. And that's how you know, even though it seems tight, it's still letting air in and out. So you can tighten it from there. So you're not going to ever get it like loose. It's like pretty tight versus super tight. It's a really fine, delicate balance to bleed these properly, because even the smallest amount of air where it can breathe sucks the air right back in. Something that the instructions are also missing is the placement of these seat belt anchors, however you want to describe them. I would have preferred to have done this earlier so I don't have to scratch paint off and weld them. It's something to keep in mind, and you'd absolutely want to wear a belt when you're riding this thing. It is fast. I've clocked this up to 40 miles an hour stock. It doesn't, when you put the new clutch in, it's actually a little bit faster. 40 miles an hour, I don't know if you're able to keep yourself in the seat if you hit something. So it definitely can kill you. I'm pretty sure this thing can kill somebody. So it's something to keep in mind. Figure out your placement early on before painting and weld those in. If you're curious, let me see if I can move this camera without creating a lot of wiggle. So you can see at least 3 out of your 5 anchor points can be had just by watching this video. So it's just something to keep in mind. And yeah, make sure you get the belts before you even go for your first ride. I made a mistake of not being belted in, and even taking my daughter out, and I regret that. I felt like it was really irresponsible. But because the thing takes so long to build, it is so dumb to build. You're like, as soon as you can get it moving, you're like trying to drive it in an unsafe condition. And that's one of the things I'll say is like, I think there's so much backtracking on this that it becomes dangerous because you start wanting to get it put together rather than put it together correctly, because you're backtracking on the design or the missing detail in the plans. The brake pedal design, I didn't follow the plans in the instructions. If you look closely, it's the reservoirs behind the pedal, which is recommended, and the pedals are actually upside down. So when you buy those pedals, just know that they were meant to be in a different position, from what I understand and how we are applying them in the Granddaddy. It's a stupid design. The whole thing's stupid. It's very dangerous. It is. When I designed it the other way, there was so much interference in the pedal where it was striking other pieces of metal that I couldn't stop the go-kart. This could have killed me. If you go on the forums and you do the deep dive like I've done, people have said when they've assembled this, the go-kart almost killed them because there's so much stupid stuff that makes no sense. And one of the is the interference right here. There's a lot of interference. If you notice, I cut off a tab. The tab was actually getting in the way of this. Now that's my fault for this design because it does show the reservoir in the front, but other people have interference. They can't stop the cart. If you read comments of people who've built this, and the comments for people wanting to build it, say, hey, I can't stop it. It's because they probably got interference that only shows itself when you're having to stop very quickly. Meaning, you're putting maximum foot pedal, you're having interference where you didn't think you... Like, I can't see interference by doing this with my hands, right? I don't know how I would see that, but when you got your 180-pound body pushing on that, you could take that thing all the way out to here. So, it took me a while to figure that out, and then I eventually got all the interferences cleared out and improved the stoppability of the cart, where I can actually lock up the pedals, but it's something to keep in mind. You're going to have to redesign the pedal layout. Hopefully this 4K footage shows you how I did it and maybe you can get a head start. It is something to strongly consider. The kill switch, another thing you should put on earlier than later. I drove this thing without a kill switch. Another regret I have, this thing was sometimes hard to stop because the clutch, like I said, the clutch is a piece of crap that comes with it or that's recommended, and you can't stop the cart. So I'm reaching behind trying to grab the kill switch on the ignition of the motor. By hindsight, I should have had the kill switch on from the very beginning. This is a dangerous cart to build with the instructions that are given, and you're going to backtrack so much that you're just going to want to slap it together and you're going to ignore all the safety features. So make sure your kill switch is wired in. There's no really good, even the instructions on how to wire this thing in are a little bit stupid. Like, there's a lot of implied knowledge as if you've built 10 of these and then they're showing you how they build it, but you're like missing context. It's not easy. Get the 2-prong connector, not the single one that grounds out against the frame. Look at all that rust, right? The other ones use the frame as the ground. Well, I don't want my safety mechanism to be running up against a piece of rusty steel. So I got a 2-prong kill switch and ran it to the harness on the motor. So there is one other thing. This is an MP rack. It is, I think, 11 inches. The plans recommend 8 inches. Now, without getting into the technical aspects why the plans use 8 inches. Well, I guess I'll get into them. It's because the pivot point on the A-arms are at 8 inches. If you measure a tape measure from where the A-arm joint connects, it's 8 inches, and that has the least amount of bump steer. But you sacrifice a little bit of tight turning radius, and I use this for the street and flat ground, so I'm not worried about bump steer. This is a rack that I bought afterwards. This is like 130 bucks. And the problem with the rack that I got from Empy was that these are cocked all crazy and are like heat set in. So there's like one's like this, the other one's like that. That's why I have this in my hand, because I can't, it's not easy to show, but so stupid. So stupid. They're like cocked and different, and they're like heat pressed, so you can't move them. What a joke. What a stupid design. They're also, it looks like the aluminum pot metal, my dad used to call it. It's not machined. It's like sand casted or something. It's super stupid. This looks CNC machined. They do say it's billet, so it's probably machined. And this is called Latest Rage 11-inch rack. It is the same as the MP, but these actually have a nut you could twist, and the build quality is superb compared to the MP rack. So I don't know if the MPs are designed just for VW bugs and that's why they're twisted weird or whatever, but don't buy it. Buy this one, Latest Rage 11-inch. I think they call it thin line. It is a must-have to get this right. Yeah, you're gonna want to invest in a rack. I couldn't get the universals on here. The universals, I had to grind it. Like the universals, during the pandemic, there was a lot of fitment issues. Like threads wouldn't thread right. I don't know if everything was just like poor quality during, the pandemic years, but everything sucked. I couldn't build anything right, and it's not because of my fault. It's like everything was machined to wrong tolerances everywhere I went. Maybe that MP rack that I bought was a victim of that. But in 2025, I'll never buy that MP stuff again. This is just much better build quality. It feels nicer in the hand. It feels like solid aluminum. The other one felt like some kind of plastic. I think it's called pot metal, and it's like a casted aluminum type thing. Stay away from it. Put it in the same trash bin that you're gonna put the wannabe torque converter. All right, guys. The shocks. This is the first set of shocks that I bought. These shocks suck. Don't buy these shocks. In fact, see this can? I thought it looked cool, so I kept buying ones with cans. I even redid the front end so it can hold the can. The can's junk. The whole thing's junk. It is a terrible design. It is saggy. Also, the angle at which you put these, if you put it up, then it's a lot stiffer. If you put it like this, and there's a reason for it, won't get into it, but the more of a slant you got, the more leverage you got, and your suspension will be super soft and super dumb. You'll get more travel. That's why I did it. I wanted more travel, but it'll be a super soft, super dumb suspension. I haven't figured out a good solution for shocks, but there's a guy called Quiet Nerd on YouTube who's building these super cool, like, camper go-kart things. Camper go-kart, yes, you heard that right. And his shocks he's using seem to be really good. So I'll try those, but I looked them up and the price is like 3 times as much, which is fine. We're building go-karts that are supposed to last a lifetime. Spend a little bit more money up front. It's fine with me. Mirrors. The one thing you don't realize you need until you need it. When I was driving this go-kart and you want to U-turn, or you're going slow through a neighborhood, people will creep right up on you, and you really gotta turn your head really hard to go look, see if someone's behind you. Get the mirror. This thing is not designed with mirrors in mind. These are golf cart mirrors, so the angle of articulation is always vertical, and I use a 3D printed thing to adjust for the angle because there's not a lot of articulation. But something to keep in mind, the earlier you do it, the easier it'll be on you. So don't be like me and wait till you're actually on the road and having to compromise and figure things out again after you felt like you already built the go-kart. The universal joints, those were probably one of the most expensive parts on the per well, not most expensive, but relative to everything, it probably was the most expensive. Um, I think those are $200 a pop, each one of those universal joints. I'm not sure. It's either 100 a pop or 200 a pop. But after doing some research, I find that a lot of people break those universal joints off. They get rusty. And there was a guy who actually hit a tree and broke his arm in one of the go-kart forums on this go-kart because the universal joint snapped off. You know, if it does snap off and it's at least an American-made product, you do have recourse. You can go to the company and say, "Hey, this thing snapped," assuming you're not using it in a way, abusing it. So the reason I say that is because companies are afraid to get sued, so they tend to build things really well. And I suspect that these guys have built this very high quality, so they don't have to face a litigation down the road, unlike the Chinese ones where they just slap them together. Now you'll see a piece of aluminum that was made on a table saw that holds the steering wheel, and I'll try to see if I can get a better zoom on that. Nope, I'm zoomed out. Zoomed in is all the way. This right here, I know someone who had a 3D printed version of that, literally 3D printed version, and it's broke, and he broke his arm, and had to go to the hospital. The police came. It was a big mess, and so no, do not 3D print that part. Make it out of aluminum. Buy one out of aluminum. Don't buy the plastic one that they're selling. You do not want to risk losing steering going 40 miles an hour on this hunk of steel, especially with children on board. You do not want to take risk. The whole idea is to build something that's better than the store can make, that can last forever with off-the-shelf parts. If you are taking shortcuts, if you are Mickey Mouse in your way to a go-kart, then you should probably buy a already made one with already made components to stick on there. Um, Despite this looking like a rusted piece of junk, it's actually really cool, and I'm sure it would last forever if I wanted. If I wanted to drive it forever, it'd last forever. Um, so that's it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I'll keep making more. I am designing my own. Well, it's already designed. It's just a matter of me making it in real life. Thanks a lot. Have a great day, guys. Bye bye.